Today we're going to talk about placing decimals onto a number line and how to do that, and we're going to talk about tenths and hundredths here. To get started here, we are going to look at a simple number line, and we are actually going to plot the number 3, and it's very simple. You simply put a dot on the number 3 and you've now done that. But today we're actually not going to look at whole numbers. We're going to focus on what's in between the numbers here. So we're looking at the decimals between the 0 and the 1, or the decimals between the 1 and the 2, or the decimals between the 2 and the 3. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to focus in on this section here and talk about what's between the 0 and the 1. When I zoom into this section, you can see that I have my 0 here and my 1 here, and in between I have 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, 0.5, which is the halfway mark, 0.6, 0.7, 0.8, 0.9. On the bottom one here, you can see it's blank. Now, usually when you are going to plot the numbers in, they'll give you a blank number line that looks like this. It's 0 to 1. Without any numbers in the middle, if something is plotted onto the number line, you need to figure out which decimal it is. And luckily, when you're counting decimals, it always goes up by 10 because it is the base 10 system. You'll see that on the top here, 0.9 or 0.9, and then we move up into one whole. So we know that we can always count up to 10 between the numbers. So it's quite easy. This is 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, 0.5, 0.6, 0.7. is the plotted decimal here. Let's move on and start looking at some examples. When we take a look at this first example, it says find the value of r and then write your decimal answer. So when we take a look at this, we can see that r is right here, and I have a 0 and a 1. I always need to check these numbers, and you'll find out why later, but I'm between 0 and 1 here, so that I know on my number line, if I look below here, this one is 0.1, and I come down here, and this is 0.2. An easier way to do this is just count from 0, 0.1, 0.2, and that's my answer, 0.2. Looking at this question, it says find the value of b. Again, I check 0 and 1 here. That allows me to know where I am on the number line. And then I just begin to count up 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, 0.5, 0.6 on the number line. On this example, they're asking to find the value of q. When I take a look at my numbers, I'm looking at 8 and 9. I'm no longer looking at 0 and 1. Now I'm looking at a number line placed between the numbers 8 and 9. For this example, I have plotted 8.1, 8.2, 8.3, and so on across the number line to show that it needs to be that 8.1, 8.2. You need to have the 8 in there. It's no longer 0 to 1. And you can see that the q lines up on the 8.9. Now normally when you're plotting a decimal, the number line will look more like this. You'll see the 8 and the 9, but there won't be any numbers in between, so you have to count up 8.1, 8.2, 8.3, 8.4, 8.5, 8.6, 8.7, 8.8, or 8 and 8.9. Another way to do it is you can see that the 9 is here and 1 before it would be 8.9. So I'm going to bring it back to a number line of 0 to 1 again, because we're actually going to look at a whole new section of the number line. We're going to focus in on this section here, the part between the 0 and the 0.1, and this is where we look at hundredths. If you take a look at these two number lines, you can see that they are quite the same by that they count up by tenths, but they're a little bit different because in the bottom one we have tiny ticks between each tenth, representing the hundredths. Let's zoom in again to this blue section to see what these hundredths look like. Now that we've zoomed in, we can see that the blue section here is represented in both number lines. The top number line doesn't show the hundredths, but the bottom number line does. So we're going to start right here at 0, and we're going to slowly count up. We have 0, 0.01, 0.02, 0.03, 0.04, 0.05, 0.06, 0.07, 0.08, and then 0.09, which leads us to our next place value into the tenths. Then we continue. We have 1/10 here, and you can see in the 0.11, there's also 1/10 and 1/100th. So it reads 0.11, 0.12, 0.13, 0.14, and so on, leading us to 0.19, moving us again, if we move forward one, to the next place value of 0.2. And you guessed it, the next hundredth would be 0.21, then 0.22, and it just continues on like this forever. Now we're going to look at how to plot hundredths on a number line. When we're looking at the top number line, it says find the value of f and write your answer. To do this, the first thing that we need to do is check which part of the number line are we dealing with. And when I look at the numbers on the left, it says 0.1, and then we look to the number at the right, it says 0.2. So the part that we're dealing with is in between 0.1 and 0.2. Let's take a look at the bottom number line to see where that fits. When looking at the bottom number line and counting up by hundredths, I can see that it starts at 0.1, then moves to 0.11, 0.12, 0.13, 0.14. So that's how I'm going to count up on my number line at the top. I'm going to start at 0.1 at the top. I'm going to move to 0.11 and then 0.12. That would mean that my decimal is 0.12. Taking a look at this one, again, we're plotting hundredths here. But if you take a look, I have 6.1 and 6.2. So I started to do a little bit of a count up here. It has 6.1, 6.11, 6.12, 6.13, and finally 6.14, which is where the k is sitting. So now we would say that k equals 6.14. Let's quickly work through this one to find the value of n. I have 20.9, so 20.91, 20.92, 20.93, 20.94, 20.95, 20.96, 20.97. All right, for solving for hundredths here, I'm going to solve this one a little bit differently. I have 84.6 and 84.7, so I'm finding in between, and I'm looking for a here. When I look at this, I know it goes 84.6 and 84.61, but I'm not going to go this way. I'm not going to count up, because when I look at the 84.7 here, I know that right before it should be 84.69. Now let's see how I did this. What I did was I took the 84.7 and I turned it into a hundredths decimal by adding a 0 here, 84.70. And since this 0 has no value, 84.7 and 84.70 are equal. But it now has a hundredths place value. And I know that if I take 1/100th away from 70, or decimal 70, it ends up to be 69. So it ends up to be 84.69. So if I take 1 away from 84.70, it becomes 84.69. Sometimes it's easier to write it with this hundredths place value as 0 to help you understand that 84.69 comes right before 84.7. This is the final one we're going to work on. We're going to take a look at the numbers 75 and 75.1. We're looking to find the value of d here. When looking at these two numbers, I see that the distance between them is only 1/10, so I automatically realize I need to count by hundredths. So I start by counting 75.0 and slowly moving up from there. 75.01, 75.02, 75.03, 75.04, 75.05, 75.06, 75.07. I can then say that the value of d is 75.07. And that's it really for plotting tenths and hundredths on a number line. What I do want to say is make sure that you check the two numbers you're plotting in between and figure out where on the number line you're working. Check to see whether you're working between whole numbers and using tenths to count up, or if you're working between tenths and need to count up by hundredths. That's really important.